Closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.
So good morning guys. So for today we will be discussing about polymorphism. So topics include overloading versus overriding, final classes and methods, and polymorphism mismo. Okay? So let's start. So first we have to identify what is overloading and overriding. Okay? 'Di ba? So overloading is a process by which two or more methods have the same name but different parameters are created. So this has already been discussed last time, no? So overloading is having the same uh, having the same what do you call this one? The same method name but iba yung number ng or iba yung mga parameters. For example is the thing we use with creating constructors, 'di ba? We created different we can create or when we create constructors we usually have two or more constructors and then same yung names nila, method names, but each one has the different types of or different number of parameters sa kanya. Okay? So that is overloading. However, overriding is a subclass contains a method that overrides the method defined in the superclass. So to override subclass method must have the same parameters that of the superclass method. Ibig sabihin, overriding naman is usually used on subclasses. Okay? So ibig sabihin, overriding is when you have a method on your superclass, you will now also be creating the same method on your subclass that has the same name and same parameter. It means identical talaga yung methods. Okay? So you have this method on your superclass and you also have this method on your subclass. So by using overriding, magkakaroon ngayon ng confliction. Alin sa dalawa yung susundin ng compiler natin? Because take note, subclass siya. So by being a subclass, it has access to the parent class. And doon sa parent class, an existing method is also appearing. So magkakaroon siya ng problema ngayon. So what will happen now? Okay? So example here, as you can see, so you have here, this is the overloaded methods. As you can see, you have public void show and okay, this is overloaded. As you can see, different parameters. Okay? Oh, no, 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 no. Yes, different parameters. This one has no parameters required to it. This one has a parameter. Okay? Now, try to see on the child. That is on the class parent. Now, look at, as you can see, the child class is now being extended to parent. It means child now is a subclass of parent. And it can now use the method show. Okay, you can use the method show. However, on the child class, it also has a void, a show method. Take note that once it is inherited, you don't have to write the code again. Okay? There's no need for you to write the code again or the methods again coming from the parent class. But by doing this, you are now doing overriding. It means you are overwriting what was on the method of the parent class. So since you have two here, okay, you have two, it means since you were able to override, it will not do what was the show method on the parent class, but it will override and do what was the method given on the child class or the subclass. So that is why, as you can see, if we're going to, okay, we created a child. Okay, so as you can see on the main method, we created a child equals a new child or a new instance of child, and we were able to show what is C show. Okay, this one has no parameter. This one has a parameter. So as you can see, output for that one. Klaro? So, nakita yung output. So, from the output, this is show. So, instead of printing from parent class na show, it printed from class because it is now being overridden. But since there is no override for the show with no parameter, it went to the parent class. Claro? So, again, look at the output. Okay, look at the output here. So, output from class. This is coming from the class, and the other one is coming from the parent class. Okay, so that is overriding. Okay, so overloading, it can be implemented in a single class or an inherited class, while overriding, it can only be implemented in inherited classes or subclasses. Overriding method must have the same name but different parameters. However, overriding, it must be identical. When we say identical, overridden methods must be identical or must have the same name and number of parameters and also the return types. Okay? So, parameters and return types must be the same. Yung statement lang yung magkakaiba. Okay? And overloaded methods are available through the inheritance hierarchy. Overridden methods are now available down the inheritance hierarchy level from they are overridden. Overridden. Okay? So, that's the difference between the two. So, as you can see, how do we uh, create or how so this is how or the template or not the template but this is the what do you call this one structure on how to create uh okay yan sige so how do we override so usually it's really just the same okay as you can see this is a person and then the person is being extended by student and now we'll just have to make sure that you get the same method name and parameters also the return type and the return variable okay so an overriding method cannot be less accessible than the method it overrides. Second, an overriding method cannot throw more exceptions than the method it is override. Okay, I know exception is more like how you handle your errors, okay? So later on, we will be talking siguro exception handling. This is how you handle every time magkakaroon ng error. So every time you'll have error, you don't, the program will not halt or stop to prompt you that there is an error, okay? You can actually use exception handling to handle how these errors affect your code, okay? So a static method cannot be overridden by a non-static. Okay? So, in Java, the final keyword is, okay, next is final. Okay? So, what is final? So, in final keyword is used in various ways depending on the context. So, a final class implicitly has all the methods as final, but not necessarily the data members. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, once you place a final on a class, it means all the methods that were set there are final, but the attributes are not. Okay? Final class may not be extended, neither the way final methods be overridden. So, ibig sabihin, once it is final, there is no, you cannot or you will not be able to extend the class. Okay? Same with method. If you're going to final place final or final a method, you will not able to to override the method. So this is how we use final. So as you can see, we just place final. Okay, the keyword final. So public final class and the class name. Same with the for method, same na din, public final, and then the return type followed by the method name and the parameter. Okay, so for example is this one. Okay, you can see you have public final class person and then public final string get name. Okay, and so as you can see, polymorphism means any forms. Ibig sabihin, that is why on your methods you can create many forms on your method because for example to make it clearer, okay, or to justify polymorphism, take note that there are different types of bird, okay. All these birds are actually can fly, okay. So you can have or you can have a bird class and have a method fly because all the birds can fly. However, all birds doesn't have the same way of how they fly. Okay? For example, an eagle usually flies on a high altitude, but a sparrow flies on a lower altitude or mas mababa or mas mababang altitude. Okay? So, by using polymorphism, you can still use the method fly, but change what is intended or what is specific for a specific method. Okay? So you have bird and then create a subclass of that bird, eagle. So eagle is now a subclass of bird and can now fly. But then for the fly, instead of having a generic fly, you can set that this bird fly on a high altitude. So it has a fly method, but iba yung ginagawa ng fly niya. Okay? Yung fly niya is high altitude. And then you can also create a new class for sparrow and extend it or extend it to bird and use the same method fly and use polymorphism to justify that this bird can only fly on low altitude. Claro? So you are getting or you can narrow down, for example, 'di ba? You can justify for those mga unique methods. Okay? So, klaro ba tayo doon? Hindi. Okay? A phenomenon when methods give a different output. Okay? And then exhibited by subclass, the override and superclass method. Yun nga. So, again, so ibig sabihin, even though you have a method coming from the superclass, you can still edit that method the way na gusto nung i-edit by the subclass. So hindi dapat si subclass kung ano yung nakasulat doon kay superclass, ifa-follow niya na lang. Okay? Meron siyang rights kung gusto niyang palitan kung ano yung nandoon kay parent class o kung ano yung method ni parent class. Klaro? Okay, so as you can see here, okay, meron tayo. So class, bird, public void. Okay, we have sparrow and eagle. Okay, so bird class is superclass and defines the method fly. And the method polymorphism, since the same method reduces different types of fly style. So as you can see, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. Okay, so you have superclass here as bird, and then you have your bird name, and then you have fly method. Okay, now you created a new class for sparrow, which is a subclass of bird. And then take note by using override. Okay, so overriding, as you can see, because we use override, we were able to set the okay. First, we gave value to the bird name or the attribute bird name is now sparrow, and then we were able to override the method fly by instead of saying bird fly, sparrow fly on low altitude. Claro? And then same with eagle. Okay? So instead of having bird fly, it now goes to eagle fly at a very high altitude. Now, on our main method, we just simply create a new instance of that one. So b equals new sparrow. And then once we execute, we will have the okay, we will have the output sparrow, fly, low altitude. Same with eagle. Klaro ba tayo dito?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, sige. So, output, as you can see, here's the output. So, output, sparrow fly low altitude, eagle fly very high altitude. So, we were able to alter kung ano man yung method na nandun kay parent class. Okay, depending sa pangangailangan or the need ng subclass natin. Okay? So, take note that take note that the invocation of the fly method of variable b produces a different form, many forms of output based on what is stored inside b variable. Okay, so with that, we are done with polymorphism.